Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of July 7th. Before we get started, I just wanted to point out a couple things going on around town here. The Fishing Has No Boundaries, which is a great organization. They get folks with special needs out on the water once a year. They do an annual outing, and they have one coming up Saturday, July 8th here. They're going to be launching out of the Governor Nelson State Park over there. Just wanted to let everybody know about this great group. They do great work. They got a website here, fnhbmadison.com. And yeah, check them out. I want to thank everybody that's involved, volunteers that set up the event. Of course, all the people that volunteer their boats and their time. If you're interested in volunteering, you go on their website here. You can also donate to them. We donate bait for this event, and we're happy to do that because it really is a great event. So just wanted to thank them for doing that, and yeah, hope you guys have some good success tomorrow. The other thing I wanted to point out, I was trout fishing this last Sunday, and boy, walking along the bank, it was just a gauntlet of poison or wild parsnip. That's a plant. It's a kind of a pretty flower, I guess. Grows maybe 5 feet tall, at the highest. But you do not want to run into this plant. It might look, peaceful enough, but it has an oil on it that you can get on your skin. And then it's photoreactive, so the sunlight will cause it to burn your skin. And I bumped into it a few times. I'm very familiar with this plant, and I've had good luck if I bump into it and I'm near water. I jumped in the creek a couple times when I bump into it and just kind of scrub the area that got bumped, and it seems to work fine for me. But do avoid this plant. It's nasty little blisters, and it's in full swing. You see it all over along the sides of the roads and stuff, but it's definitely out there, and you definitely don't want kids playing in it or anything. So look out for the poison parsnip. Just a little bit of shop news. We have hats in. We finally got our hats in. Along with that, we're trying a new thing here. We're selling these little coolers, DNS logo on the top there. Comes with a ice pack, the frozen ice pack. So yeah, $12.99. It's especially this time of year when it's hot. It's really important to keep your bait cool. And I've used a cooler system like this for years, and I figured we'd try it out here at the shop. So anyway, just wanted to point that out to folks. Otherwise, as far as the report goes, boy, it sure does feel nice out there after the heat broke Wednesday night. It seems kind of chilly this morning. The cold front brought with it a little bit of rain here in Madison. I think we got just shy of a half inch here on the north side, but we sure could use some more. It's still very dry. Looks like a gorgeous weekend ahead and some comfortable temps through next week, but still not a lot of rain in the forecast. The buoy out here on Lake Mendota read 76.3 degrees this morning, so the warm spell we had raised temps a couple degrees from this time last week, but they've actually been coming down the last couple nights with these cool nights. I heard Monona was at 77 degrees on Wednesday, for what that's worth. Otherwise, you'll find warmer water in shallow bays and protected areas. Generally around the chain, I haven't gotten a ton of reports. My usual sources kind of avoid the holiday weekend with pleasure boaters and the heat, and but there's still plenty to talk about. Sounds like floating vegetation can still be a problem in spots, and I hear water clarity ranges from pretty good to great depending on where you're fishing. Looks like one problem spot of blue-green algae on the water quality report. What was it? Maple Bluff Beach Park is closed, but otherwise all the beaches are open, which is a good sign that the pretty good water quality visibility around town. I would say gills are mostly done spawning, but I have heard some reports, even as early as recent as 2 days ago, way down here on Kegonsa. I heard a report of a guy was catching bluegills that still had spawn in them. So that's interesting because they've been quote unquote done down there for several weeks now. And I have heard about some gills up here on Mendota still sitting on beds. So I would say, though, for the most part, the spawn is over on the bluegill side of things. Perch reports remain spotty from around town, on Mendota, but folks that are picking up fish are right on the weed lines. Currently out of the thunderbugs, but I'm supposed to be getting some more in before noon today. So hopefully we'll have those. Those have been working well for both the bluegills and the perch. But also redworm spikes and waxies been working well too. Um, Largemouth bass remain shallow around the chain, and smallmouth bass and walleye are showing up in good numbers on mid-lake humps as we move into the summer here. Pike are plentiful, and musky bite seems to be on the slow side. All area rivers and streams are running low, or at least below their seasonal averages for this time of year. I get into a little more detail up here on the north side. Cherokee up here is still a totally weedy mess out here in Cherokee Park, but folks that are able to launch here at the school road launch, you can probably get a small boat in there, definitely a kayak or a canoe, get out here in the channel, and there's some great action on bass and pike out there. The catfish bite continues down here at the 113 bridge. Crawlers have been the most effective for those fish, but that'll switch over here to stink bait as things warm up here in July and August. On Mendota, most of the shallow water gills have moved off their beds, but I am hearing reports, like I said, of fish that are still spawning, end up on beds. The gills that are done have started to move out a little bit deeper into 10 to 15 feet of water and are showing up on weed lines. I haven't heard anything on the crappies, but the perch bite on the weed lines seems to have stalled a little bit this last week. But that could have something to do with just not a lot of, like I said, the regulars getting out there doing it. Either way, I hear about spotty action all around the lake, generally in that 10 to 15 feet of water right on the weed lines. And when I say right on the weed lines, I mean right on the weeds. I hear a lot of folks that are going out. I hear a lot of reports about folks not doing well. The folks that I do hear are doing well. The one thing I hear in common with their reports is that they're getting fish right on the weed lines. So you got to be tight to it, and it's got to be a pretty well-defined weed edge. But also look for pockets in the weeds. If you can find pockets, a lot of times those can be money makers for the old perch. Otherwise, smallmouth bass. There's been a good topwater bite, early morning topwater bite, but otherwise those fish have moved out to mid-lake humps with walleyes. Largemouth bass bite, shallow, has been good. Tenney Park continues to produce fish on the breakwall, up off the breakwall here, and some nice largemouth coming out of the lagoons. Haven't heard a ton coming out of the river. It's spotty. It's just mostly has to do with flows through there. They've got just water kind of trickling through there, basically, compared to what it is other times of the year. Down here on Monona, gills are generally off their beds and hungry. Look for those fish a little bit deeper in 10 to 15 feet of water near the bottom. I had, let me bring up the picture of the old Monona rig. Very simple rig. I mentioned it a report or two ago. Still working great out there. And as those fish move out into deep water, suspended, that'll also be super effective for those fish. Monona Bay has been producing a nice mixed bag, mostly gills, but some bass and pike in there. They've been getting some crappies up here to the Monona Terrace wall. Gills, I would say gills during the day, and then crappies seem to turn on about 4 o'clock or so over there. I guess Lake Wingara, just a tiny gill factory, some good largemouth in there, and I have heard of a couple, decent sized muskies in that 30 to 40 inch range coming out of there. Back out on Monona, haven't heard a ton out of Turville Bay or Squaw Bay, Weechowuk Bay. Haven't heard much out of that down there, but there's bound to be gills in there. Weeds are probably a problem in there. But speaking of weeds, it sounds like Upper Mud down here is pretty choked with weeds outside of the dredge hole and along the channel. But folks are still doing well over there, and I heard topwater's been pretty effective. Gills have moved off here out to a little deeper water near Lake Farm. Same thing down on the south end of the lake. They're moving out a little bit deeper out of those spawning areas. Walleyes around Hog Island, Babcock County Park to Bible Camp is a pretty safe bet. Haven't heard much out of muskies on Monona or Wabisa, actually. But, I don't hear a ton of reports from muskie guys. I have seen a few on social media, though, that it sounds like folks are getting some fish. Down here to Keeganza, the water's clarity down there sounds like it's great. They're still getting good gills on weed lines and some good walleyes, too, here and there. Slip bobbers on weed lines or trolling out here in front of the state park has been pretty effective. But that's it's good to hear that bite is kind of keeping going. Down here to the Rock River, heard about some, a nice mixed bag at Indian Ford and then up at Jefferson. I haven't heard a ton out of Koshkonong, but online there looks like they're saying up here where the river dumps in, trolling with flicker shads and crawler harnesses has been pretty effective. Um, Same thing up to the Jefferson Dam as Indian Ford. A nice mixed bag up there. So we heard about some flatheads starting to move in there, so that's always cool. They always get some nice fish out of there, some nice flatheads. Beaver Dam catfish bite's been great. Good eater size fish over there. Let's see, Castle Rock Lake has been a good yellow bass bite during the day. Crappies at night has been pretty good from what I hear. Just had a guy in this morning doing well up here to Devil's Lake on some um, trout over there, but I guess those fish are down pretty deep already. I was surprised. He told me they were near the bottom in like 30 feet of water, so that's deeper than I'm used to them being, I guess, this time of year. Um, the Wisconsin River flows are very low, not the trickle that they were a couple weeks ago, but still below their seasonal averages. But the nice thing about that is, I mentioned before, it concentrates fish in deeper pools. So look to the backsides of sandbars, corners, around bridges, stuff like that are great for smallmouth. The frog bite, topwater frog bite's been great. Subsurface stuff bite's been great. Otherwise, the Prairie du Sac Dam, always a good chance with a mixed bag of fish showing up there. Up to Lake Wisconsin. Heard about still a good walleye bite up here, although some folks are complaining about the fish being light biters and a lot of shorts now, but still a good bite up there. Sounds like panfish bite's been good. Crappies near wood and some perch starting to show up. Some decent sized ones too, it sounds like. I haven't heard a ton out of Portage or the Dells. Let's see, Castle Rock, great opportunities below the dam for a mixed bag and some catfish in there. It sounds like Castle Rock Lake's been pretty green with algae, but they're still getting some fish. Trolling, it sounds like it's been good with crawler harnesses, actually kind of shallower than you might expect, and some bigger fish coming out of shallow water. Same thing up on Petenwell. Both those lakes, sounds like, they're getting fish in a lot of places, but some surprisingly shallow water for this time of year. Same thing at the Petenwell Dam as far as a mixed bag there goes. Otherwise, the Mississippi over here has, I've been hearing about a good walleye bite and white bass bite and current seams. I haven't heard much in the way of sturgeon recently, but it sounds like some bluegills near wing dams has also been a thing. So if you want to take a trip over there, it's always a pretty good time for a mixed bag of fish. Milwaukee River, nothing happening, from shore anyway along the Milwaukee. I do see a lot of folks getting some nice kings and I think some cohos out there. But the Milwaukee River is also running very, very low right now. But that again is concentrating smallmouth in some of the deeper pockets you can find. Also some pike that I've heard about in there. I haven't heard much out of Green Bay or Winnebago. So I guess we're back to Madison. On the trout side of things, like I said, the parsnip and the nettles, the parsnip and nettles have been, giving people headaches. There's a lot of that around this time of year. Water temps, though, this week with the forecast coming up should be good. So I'm not super worried about temperatures getting above that 67-degree mark. Like I said, I was out this last Sunday and did well. I had ants and a hopper pattern that I was working on, and it was doing really well. I also did. I had a friend who was catching a few on some caddis. There are some mayfly hatches that'll come off early in the morning and evenings, but right now we're full on into terrestrial season. So ants, beetles, crickets, hoppers. Like I said, I got some on some hoppers. It is really what you're going to want to be looking at this time of year. Of course, don't be afraid to start or to throw woolly buggers and nymphs if fish aren't looking up or you're fishing deeper holes. And the spinning gear side of things, panther martins, tube jigs, rapalas, all fantastic. And red worm under a bobber is really great. I guess that's it for the report. Feel free to call the shop at 241-4225 if you have any questions or want me to expand on anything. Otherwise, got some folks in the shop, so I'm going to dip out here. Good luck to everybody, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks for tuning in.